Welcome to Shreveport Connection with Tommy. This video is on your Extreme Rules pay-per-view results. Live from a site taped below from the W Performance Center in Orlando, Florida, Tom Phillips welcomes us to the show. He's also joined by Byron Sexton and Samoa Joe. Kevin Owens and Buddy Murphy, your pre-show match. The music hits and out comes first Kevin Owens for the opening match. Murphy was out next by himself as the developmental trainees in the crowd boo him. The bell rings and Murphy quickly charges, but Owens avoids it and unloads with offense in the corner. Murphy kicks Owens and stuns him to one knee. Owens comes back with a big right hand and more action. They trade punches and kicks in the middle of the ring. Murphy blocks the second stunner attempt, but drops Owens with a flying knee for a 2 count. More back and forth between the two. Murphy applies a sleeper that slows Owens down as the crowd rallies behind Owens. Owens then rams back into the corner and breaks free. Murphy comes out of the second rope, but Owens kicks him and drops him with a DDT. And they both go down as Owens is slow to recover. Failing to make the cover, they both get up and Owens ducks clothesline. Owens with an inverted chopper drop and a huge clothesline to turn Murphy inside out. Owens goes for the senton, but Murphy gets his knees up. Murphy misses a splash in the corner. Owens slams his face first into the top turnbuckle. Owens with a corner cannonball for a pop from the crowd and a close 2 count. Owens with a big chop in the corner. Then another. Owens takes Murphy back up top and chops him. Owens climbs up for a superplex, but is blocked. Murphy rocks Owens and sends him to the mat. Murphy follows up with a flying meteora for a close 2 count. Murphy is slow to capitalize, and Owens rocks him with a right hand. Owens catches a kick and kicks Murphy on the thigh. Murphy blocks a pop-up powerbomb and a super kick. Owens keeps fighting, but Murphy drops him with big knees. Murphy with a brainbuster for a 2 count in the middle of the ring. Murphy ends up beating Owens down in the corner. Murphy takes Owens up top for a superplex, but Owens resists, countering him. Owens headbutts Murphy to the mat. Murphy comes back with a kick to the face. Murphy climbs back up for a superplex, but Owens continues to resist. Owens sends Murphy to the mat on his face. Owens hits a huge springboard moonsault for a close 2 count. Murphy rolls to the apron. Owens comes for him, but gets dropped over the top rope neck first. Murphy goes to the top, but has to roll through. Owens comes right back with a super kick and then stunner for the pin and the win. After the match, Owens recovers as the music plays. Then we go to replays. Owens celebrates. As we go back to the panel, Stanford and Rosenberg discuss the Raw Women's title match. They send us back to the 3-way video call with Renee Young, JBL, Booker T, and Renee also hype the unsanctioned match on Raw between Randy Orton and Big Show. We get more hype for Raw and Extreme Rules. Stanford sends us to a video package for tonight's WWE title match. Rosenberg continues taking shots. At Stanford, as he has done all evening. But Stanford interrupts him to sign off. That's it for the pre-show. The horror show Extreme Rules pay-per-view opens up with a video package for tonight's matches. Live from the W Performance Center in Orlando, Florida. On a slight tape delay, as Michael Cole welcomes us to the horror show at Extreme Rules pay-per-view. He's joined in by Corey Graves, NXT developmental trainees cheer from the crowd. Tables match for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. Their opening match. Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura versus the New Day. We go right to the ring. First comes SmackDown Tag Team Champions the New Day, Big E and Kofi Kingston. There are tables all over the arena. Cole says this match is presented by Snickers and Dollar General. Greg Hamilton does ring introductions. Out next is Cesaro. He stops on the stage and waits for his partner, Shinsuke Nakamura. They head to the ring together. The bell rings and both teams start brawling. Cesaro takes Kofi to the corner, and Nakamura takes Big E to the other. They take turns on the champs, but the New Day quickly turns it around. High impact moves from a pop from the crowd. Kofi and Big E bring the first table into the ring, but the challengers stop them on ringside. Cesaro sends Kofi into the plexiglass barrier. Big E fights Nakamura off and sends him into the barrier. Big E whips Kofi into Nakamura, dropping him with a drop kick into the barrier. Cesaro gets a low drop kick. Next, into the steel steps while he's down next to them. Kofi sends Cesaro face first into the barrier while Big E stands a table up on the floor. Kofi unloads on Cesaro with strikes and a headbutt. Big E rocks Cesaro next. Big E puts Cesaro on his shoulders. Kofi looks to jump from the apron to put Cesaro to the ringside table, but Nakamura makes a save and levels Kofi with a big kick. Cesaro drops Big E on the floor and slams the steps on him. Kofi gets double teamed in the ring. Now after Nakamura stands the table up. They take Kofi to the top and work him over with strikes. They'll look to double superflex Kofi to the table, but Big E makes a save, knocking Cesaro to the floor. Big E is ready to powerbomb Nakamura to the table as Kofi climbs up top, but Nakamura fights free. Cesaro presses Kofi high on the apron, but Kofi slides back down. Big E runs the ropes and hits a big spear, sending Cesaro from the apron to the floor for a pop. Kofi kicks Nakamura from the apron to the floor. Big E drags a table from to the bottom of the ramp now. Kofi works Cesaro over, then places him on top of the table. The champ returns to the ring, while Cesaro is still down on the table on the outside. Kofi runs the ropes, and Big E launches him out, but he flies into a table, but Nakamura and Cesaro are holding up. They keep control on Kofi on the outside now. They go to double suplex Kofi through the table, but Big E makes the save again. Big E then gets double teamed on the apron. Nakamura and Cesaro work over Big E in the ring. Nakamura with a sliding knee to put him back down. The crowd rallies as Nakamura stands a table up by ringside. Kofi gets to the top and flies to the floor with a crossbody, taking Nakamura back down. Big E launches Cesaro across the ring. Kofi stomps on Nakamura at ringside while Big E stomps on Cesaro in the corner. New Day has two tables stacked up at ringside now. Big E looks to superflex Cesaro through the table, but Nakamura makes a save. Kofi comes in and stops Nakamura. Cesaro rocks Big E up top. Kofi gets sent to the floor by Nakamura. Cesaro sends Big E to the mat, not to the table on the floor. Nakamura saves Cesaro from the big ending finish. Cesaro hits the swing to Big E into Nakamura with a kick. Big E takes the challengers down. Here comes Kofi with more offense. Kofi sends Nakamura to the floor and to a table, but the edge, not through it. More offense by the New Day. Kofi brings Cesaro back in with lefts and rights in the corner. Kofi takes Cesaro to the top and looks down at the tables on the floor. Cesaro counters. Nakamura assists with a kick. Nakamura helps reposition as Cesaro powers Kofi up from the top, putting him through the table, through the double tables on the floor with a huge powerbomb and win the titles. After the match, the new champs celebrate and stand tall as the music hits. We're going to replace Cesaro and Nakamura show off the titles at the announce table, wanting their respect now. We see Asuka, Kairi Sane, and Alexa Bliss backstage, hyping Nikki Cross up for her title shot, which is up next. Nikki Cross versus Bayley. We go to ring first. Out first comes Nikki Cross with Alexa Bliss. Women's Tag Team Champions are out next. SmackDown Women's Champion Bayley with Sasha Banks. They get former ring introduction from Hamilton. Bayley strikes first and does the showing off. Things get heated a bit after some slaps. Cross ends up hitting a big DDT early on for a 2 count. And a pop from the talents at ringside. Bayley takes the DDT on the outside. And Cross brings it back in for a crossbody and a 2 count. As everybody's wearing masks, it should have been a Halloween fest. Cross then goes right back up and hits another crossbody, but Bayley kicks out. Bliss looks worried at ringside. Cross goes right back to the top, but Bayley rolls to the floor for a breather. Cross hits a crossbody from the apron instead. Cross stands tall on the floor and yells out. Bailey rams Cross back into the apron, then into the barrier as Banks and on. Bailey with another shot into the plexiglass. Bailey brings it back into the ring for a 2 count. Bailey works Cross over in the corner now. Bailey with a shoulder thrust as the referee warns her. Bailey with a takedown for a 2 count. Bailey keeps Cross grounded as Bailey ends up trapping Cross in the apron, as Cross normally does that herself, and unloading on her. Cross crawls under the ring and comes up on the other side. Bailey goes for the baseball side, but Cross traps her in the apron now and works her over as the crowd tallies. Cross brings it back up and drops Bailey over the second rope. Cross mocks Bailey's old taunts and sends her into the corner. Cross avoids the belly suplex. More back and forth between the two. Bailey is frustrated after Cross kicks out again. They go on and Bailey hits a superplex for a 2 count. Cross rolls Bailey from behind for a 2 count. Bailey drops Cross again for another pin attempt. They continue trading offensive counters. They both go down the middle of the ring after an inverted DDT by Cross, as Cross is unable to capitalize. Cross with a running clothesline and a drop kick now. Cross with a corner clothesline and a running bulldog. Cross yells out and climbs to the top. Cross with more big offense, but she can't get the pin on the champ. Bliss looks on concerned. Cross with 2 back suplexes in the middle of the ring, but Bailey still kicks out. Cross goes back up, but Bailey cuts her off once again. Bailey ends up charging in the corner, but Cross moves and Bailey lands hard on the turnbuckle. Cross with a neck breaker from the apron to the floor. They're both down on the outside as the referee counts. They come back in and Bailey clotheslines the challenger. Cross drops her and covers for a 2 count as Banks looks on worried. Bliss cheers her partner on. Bailey kicks Cross away a few times, but Cross keeps coming. Banks approaches Bailey at ringside and looks to hand her something, which is none other than her ring. Banks gets on the apron to distract the referee. Bliss also gets on the apron and yells at him. Bailey takes advantage and hits Cross in the ribs with the large boss ring that Banks just gave her, which she said to her before the apron distraction. Bailey follows up with a slamming Cross face first in the mat and covers for the win to retain. After the match, Bailey and Banks stand tall together as the music plays. We go to replays. Banks and Bailey head backstage and pose as we see Cross trying to recover in the ring. Back for the break, we get a special horror edition of Bray Wyatt's Firefly Funhouse. He says that the scariest is yet to come from the horror show as he presents the most disgusting and horror-filled footage known to man. The video cuts to a recent replay of the karaoke showdown on SmackDown, but Wyatt interrupts and apparently blames it on Rambling Rabbit. The horror edition of Firefly Funhouse continues as Wyatt hypes tonight's Wyatt Swamp Fight. We go to ringside with Tom Phillips, Byron Saxton, and Samoa Joe now. The new WWE United States title belt is on display next to them. Tom says champion Apollo Crews will not be able to defend tonight. He was here earlier and eager to compete, but he did not pass his pre-match physical due to a recent injury. Out comes MVP and Bobby Lashley to the ring. We see Lashley's recent full Nelson to Crews. They say Crews has a bulging disc from that full Nelson, and he is unable to compete tonight. MVP and Lashley joke about the injury to Crews. MVP mentions a win by forfeit. He goes to ringside and brings the title belt in, claiming he's the new champion. Lashley assists as MVP now wears the title around his waist. MVP declares himself as your new champion, but no announcement is made official. Especially by Mike Rome even says no champion. MVP's music hits as he makes his exit with Lashley. Crews is still the champion, but MVP is acting as if he won the title by forfeit. The moves continue as Lashley and MVP pose on the stage before heading to the back. We're getting a video package for Mysterio versus Rollins feud, which is the match is up next. And we get the eye for an eye match. This was the most ridiculous match in the history of wrestling, because I've seen no actual finish to the match. Eye for an eye match, the eyeball has to pop out. We go to the ring for the first ever eye for an eye match as Seth Rollins comes out first. Rollins stops and reveals that he's brought a pair of pliers with him. Mike Roman announces that the only way to win the match is by extracting the eye of your opponent. Rey Mysterio is out next as Rollins waits in the ring. Ready to fight, Rey suddenly appears in the ring behind Rollins and strikes with a surprise attack. Rey looks for an early 619, but Rollins comes back and brings it in. Rollins goes right after the uninjured eye as the referee looks on. Rey tries to use the pliers early on. Rey pulls a table from under the ring and a tool bag full of tools. Rey brings a piece of rebar into the ring, but Rollins nails him with a kendo stick from the floor. More back and forth in the ring now. Rey goes for the 619 again, but Rollins slides to the floor and avoids it. Rollins ends up dropping Rey on his neck on the edge of the apron. After more back and forth, Rey falls to the floor and the referee checks on him. Rollins goes for Rey's left eye now. Rey retreats and Rollins stalks him to ringside. Rollins keeps control. Back in the ring now. Rollins launches Rey as he slides under the bottom rope, landing hard on the flattened table at ringside. Rollins follows, and this was one of the announcers' tables. Rollins follows, and Rey calls him a son of a B-word, and Rollins stomps and talks trash. Rollins grabs a steel chair and tries to use the edge on Rey's eye, but the fight continues. More chaos and weapons at ringside now. Rollins gets jabbed in the eye by Rey, sending him face first into the corner of the announce table. But he goes down holding his eye. The referee checks on Rollins, but his eye is still intact. There is rope and many tools on the ground as they go at it. Rey ends up pulling Rollins face first into the steel ring post. Rollins goes back down, and as the crowd rallies, Rey brings it back in, but Rollins nails him in the ribs with a kendo stick shot. Rollins with more shots to Rey. Rollins jabs a kendo stick into the turnbuckle, leaving it poking out. He tries to ram Rey's eye first into the edge of the stick, but is blocked by Rey. Rey turning it around. Rey unloads with more offense and hits a top rope splash. Rey goes for the eye, but Rollins fights him off. Rollins with another counter, slamming Rey on his face. More back and forth in the ring. Rey lands a big tornado DDT from the corner. Rey with more big offense. He slides from the ring to the floor, power bombing Rollins into the barrier after launching him into the barrier before. The crowd rallies as Rey stalks Rollins with a kendo stick at ringside. Rey breaks the stick apart. He brings Rollins to the apron and tries to drive the edge of the broken kendo stick into Rollins' eye. Rollins resists and rolls into the ring, clutching his eye. The referee checks on him. Rey waits for Rollins to get up. Rey connects with a 619, hitting the damaged eye. They tangle some more on the floor, with Rollins trying to protect his eye. Rey uses Rollins' stomp and puts him back down face first on the floor with a big pop. Rey tries to jab Rollins' eye into the edge of the steel ring steps now. Rollins screams out. Rey stops, and the referee checks on them both as the crowd loudly boos. Rollins takes advantage of the break in chaos, driving Rey back into the barrier. Tom points to the damage done to Rollins' right eye. Rollins stands up and hits a big stomp, dropping Rey down face first into the floor. More boots from the crowd. Rey is down on his back now. Rollins talks trash and says Rey did this. Rollins drags Rey back to the steps and tries to put his eye into the edge of the steps. Rey resists, but it's not enough. We see what looks like blood coming from Rey's eye. No eye pop out. They don't show it. Rollins backs off and waits for him to get back up. Rey isn't moving much, but the referee checks on Rey again and calls for the bell. And they don't show him. They just show him holding his eye. As he's still wearing a mask, no eyeball out. Crappy finish to the match. They could have at least did a fake eyeball drop out. After the bell, a trainer and a referee check on Rey, along with his son Dominic. We see Rollins off to the side, throwing up near the ramp several times. A trainer and official checking on, and Dominic quickly escort Rey up the ramp on the stretcher and to the back. with a towel held over his eye. The crowd starts pounding on the plexiglass at Rollins, chanting what sounds like shame at him. Rollins lips away, looking disturbed and concerned. As a surprise finish. Back from a preview for the last ride from Undertaker, as there were 5 episodes, and Tom plays up the seriousness of the Rey Mysterio situation. Kayla Rex is backstage with Bayley. The WWE Tag Team Champion and SmackDown Women's Champion appears to be shaken up by what happened to Rey Mysterio. She then changes her tune and mocks Rey for losing his eye. She says Rey is not seeing double vision because she is still Bayley Ghost Straps after retaining her over Nikki Cross. She then introduces partner Sasha Banks and promises her big time. They go on about leaving tonight's show with all the gold and the big celebration that they are going to have. We get the video package for the Wyatt Swamp fight. Raw Women's title match was up next. Sasha Banks versus Asuka. Another disappointing match in this match. We go back to the ring. Out first comes the Kabuki Warriors. Raw Women's Champion Asuka was Kairi Sane. The Women's Tag Team Champions are out next. Sasha Banks with SmackDown Women's Champion Bayley. Former ring introduction from Rome. The bell rings and they go at it. Banks takes Asuka to the corner, beats her down as the referee warns her. Banks backs off as they lock up again. Banks takes control. Asuka fights back, but Banks keeps her down. They take on the mat with Banks trying for pin attempts. Asuka goes for an armbar, but Banks gets to the bottom rope to break it. More back and forth. Offense. Asuka with a big sliding strike from the apron. Banks takes back control and covers for a 2 count after a knee strike. Banks grounds Asuka and bends her fingers back as Bayley looks on with smiles as referee warns Banks as she finally lets go as Sane tries to rally the crowd for the shout. Asuka fights back up, but Banks takes her right back down into another armbar in the middle of the ring. Banks talks trash to the corner and unloads with strikes down. Banks with the double knees to the ribs and more double knees from the corner for a 2 count. Banks keeps control, but Asuka rocks her and fights up from the mat. Asuka levels Banks and drops her with a huge back fist for a pop. They tangle in the corner some more, but both go back down for another set of big double knees. Shane cheers Asuka on. Asuka gets up first and goes for the hip attack, but gets stuck in the ropes as Banks moves on the apron. Banks tries to send Asuka to the floor with a big German suplex from the apron now, but Asuka hangs on. Asuka reverses and traps Banks in the ropes, unloading on her. Asuka tries for a German off the apron now, but it's blocked. They go to the floor, and Banks launches Asuka into the plexiglass. Referee starts counting. Banks brings it back in and goes to the top for the big frog splash. She hits it and then applies the Banks statement in the middle of the ring. Asuka digs deep and makes it to the bottom rope to break the hold. Asuka levels Banks again after Banks talks some trash in her face. Asuka with more offense for a close 2 count. Asuka with a huge German, dropping Banks on her neck. Asuka unloads with kicks and a sliding kick to the face for another 2 count. Asuka ends up hitting another German. Asuka misses the top rope drop kick and Banks follows up with a big kick. Asuka kicks out of 2. More back and forth between the two. Banks wastes some time and laughs after sending Asuka to the mat. Banks escapes a big German suplex attempt from the top. Hits a running double knees in the corner. Banks looks to follow up, but she slips on the ropes and goes down on her knee. The crowd rallies as both of them are down. Referee checks on Banks, but she screams at him to get out of her face while she clutches her knees. Banks yells about being the next champion. Banks and Asuka trade shots from the mat now, working up to their knees and their feet in the middle of the ring. They tangle. Bayley gets on the apron, but Sane stops her. Bayley drops Sane on the floor with a Bayley to belly suplex while Asuka and Banks trade counters and strikes into the ring. Asuka with Asuka lock in the middle of the ring now. Bayley tosses one of the belts in. Banks is tapping, but referee is distracted by Sane, pointing out out Bailey. Oscar breaks a hold and drops Bailey with a kick to the head, which the referee sees. Banks grabs one of the belts and uses it, but the referee yells at her and grabs it. The referee and Banks have words. Oscar approaches from behind and sprays green mist as Banks turns around, but Banks ducks and the mist hits the referee in the face. Bailey comes from behind at Oscar, but the referee is blinded. Bailey rips her referee's shirt off and puts it on, thinking she's the referee, sending him to the floor. Banks covers Oscar, and Bailey covers for the 3 count. No official, because she's not a referee and doesn't have a referee license. Bailey yells for the timekeeper to ring the bell. She goes to ringside and threatens him, so he rings the bell. Bailey grabs the Raw Women's title and takes it over to Banks on the floor. They celebrate as the boos gets louder. Oscar is happy. Banks' music hits as we go to replays. No winner to the match, as Oscar is still the champion, because Bailey is not a referee. After the replays, Bailey and Banks head to the back together, all with the goal. No official announcement on the finish. Charlie is backstage with an update on Rey Mysterio. She says he is being treated at a local facility for the eye injury. It looks like he may be able to retain his vision. We get a video package for tonight's WWE title match. Extreme Rules match for the challenger only for the WWE title. Dolph Ziggler versus Drew McIntyre. As that was what he said the match stipulation was on the pay-per-view. We go to the ring for tonight's WWE title match, and Dolph Ziggler is out. WWE Champion Drew McIntyre is out before Rome does formal ring introductions. Ziggler takes the mic and says Drew made a big mistake by letting him pick the stipulation after signing the contract for the match. Ziggler finally announces the stipulation, Extreme Rules, for Ziggler only. Also, Ziggler will win the title if McIntyre walks away or gets disqualified. Drew looks on, maybe a bit concerned or not, then hands the title off to the referee. Match begins, and here we go. Ziggler tries to go for a weapon early on, but Drew keeps the show early on. Drew brings it back in and waits for a Claymore, but Dolph escapes to the floor. Dolph cannot be counted out. Drew follows, and Dolph goes for his eyes. Ziggler brings the steel chair in, but Drew catches it. Drew has to throw it to the floor, as he cannot use it. Drew blocks the super kick and overpowers Ziggler some, launching him with a huge overhead suplex. Drew works Ziggler over on the outside and then brings it back in. Drew ends up leveling Ziggler over the top with a huge clothesline. Drew follows and Ziggler counters, sending him into the ring post and then the barrier. Ziggler sends Drew back into the ring post as the referee counts. Ziggler pulls the table from under the ring. Drew makes it back in at the 7 count. Drew goes back out and lifts Ziggler for a long vertical suplex. He looks to possibly put Ziggler through the table, but he has to move and drop on the floor instead. They bring him back in the ring, and Drew hits a big sit-down powerbomb for a close 2 count. Drew takes his time and talks some trash to Ziggler while he's down. Ziggler gets up and kicks Drew with a low blow, but it's legal for Ziggler only. The crowd boos him. Ziggler goes back out and brings several steel chairs in the ring. Ziggler unloads with a steel chair shot to keep Drew down. Ziggler with a steel chair shot to the throat. Drew gets up, but Ziggler swings and knocks him down with a big chair shot to the shoulder. Drew kicks out at 2. Drew rolls to the floor, clutching his throat. Ziggler leaps off the apron, but Drew catches him and rams him into the apron. Drew then launches Ziggler over his head, over the announce table. Referee starts the 10 count. Ziggler ends up hitting a big famouser off the announce table. Ziggler rolls back in the ring, and Drew follows at the 8 count. Drew is upset. He keeps fighting and comes off the top with a right hand, but misses. Ziggler jumps on his back with a super hold out. Drew gets to the top rope to break it, but it doesn't work against Ziggler in this match. Ziggler wears Drew down to one knee as the crowd tries to rally. Drew slams Ziggler into the mat. Drew charges but runs into the ring post instead. Ziggler keeps this up, but Drew hits a big clothesline and they both go down. Drew goes for the future shot DDT, but Ziggler counters and nails the famouser. Ziggler with another zigzag, but Drew gets right back up. Ziggler puts him right back down with a Uranage on the steel chair. Drew still kicks out of two. Ziggler runs up preparing for sweet change music in the corner. He goes on, but Drew blocks it and comes back with a Claymore kick and gets a pin and a win to retain. After the match, Drew's making place as he is handed the WWE title. Drew yells out and raises the title as we go to replays. And Drew stands tall, raises the title in the air as the crowd cheers. Back from the break, Cole's all leads us to tonight's main event, the Swamp Fight. And this is your cinematic match of the night. Swamp Fight, Universal title, Universal Champion Braun Strowman versus Bray Wyatt. It's time for the first ever Wyatt Swamp Fight, which will be our non-title main event. WWE Universal Champion Braun Strowman drives his big truck up to Bray Wyatt's home in the swamp. Of course, I already predicted Bray Wyatt to win this match to make it a number 3 match for SummerSlam. It's time. Okay. Wyatt is sitting on the front porch in his rocking chair, all smiles and laughs. Braun approaches and says he's home. Wyatt, still sitting down, just laughs. We go to black for a second and comes back to just Strowman. Wyatt's chair is moving, but he's not there. Strowman sees a sign on a tree that warns anyone who enters. Strowman smashes the rocking chair against a tree, and we hear Wyatt laughs in the distance. We hear some pigs squealing, as Strowman apparently has flashbacks. He fights off a mystery master attacker. Strowman yells out for Wyatt to show his dang face. A shovel hits Strowman in the back as he goes down. Strowman looks terrified as he sees himself standing above him, wearing the black sheep mask and holding the shovel. Strowman looks up from the ground as the other Strowman smashes him in the face with a shovel. Strowman comes to, and he's chained up in the house now for more wackiness. We see the swamp version of Wyatt walking outside, lantern in hand, and his music plays in the background. Wyatt walks into the room where Strowman is chained in a chair. Wyatt laughs and welcomes Strowman home, asking what he thinks about Wyatt's changes to the house. Strowman says he hates Wyatt. Wyatt taunts Strowman while he's chained to the chair. Wyatt plays some mind games some more and grabs Strowman, yelling at him. He is not Strowman's enemy. Wyatt goes on about how people have invaded and turned against him, but they come together and be the one standing after everyone falls, after governments and the rest of the world fall. Strowman says he's sending Wyatt straight back to hell. Wyatt goes on with cryptic talk, saying Strowman is a weapon and he is the hand that controls it. Wyatt has to destroy the monster Strowman has become. Strowman doesn't care what happens. He will never go back to doing Wyatt's dirty work. A woman appears with a snake now. Wyatt tells Strowman not to be afraid. This mystery woman could be Sister Abigail. The snake attacks Strowman out of nowhere. He comes to, and now he's outside near a fire. He's fighting off another mystery man in black, including one average-looking guy swinging an axe. Wyatt takes it and beats the man down. The man catches fire and runs around as Strowman laughs. You know how those fire suits go. We hear a woman's voice telling Strowman to come home. It's none other than Alexa Bliss in black, with a hood over her head. She's telling Strowman that he's always wanted to be with her. This can be their home together if he just comes home. Strowman opposes the image of Bliss, but Wyatt attacks him from it. Strowman apparently gets the upper hand and knocks Wyatt into a small white boat. The boat starts riding out into the lake with Wyatt laid out on it. Strowman smiles and walks away from the lake. He stops and looks back at the boat, confused. The boat is now coming back to the dock. Strowman walks out into the water up to his waist. He goes to the boat and it's empty. No Wyatt. Wyatt comes from the side and drops Strowman with a shovel to the head. They fall into the water with Wyatt beating Strowman and holding him down. As we see flashes of alligators, Strowman eventually pulls himself up to the dock. Struggling to breathe, he's laying on the dock now as a female voice laughs. Wyatt attacks on the dock. Strowman fights back, but Wyatt beats him down with some sort of stick. Wyatt screams out. Wyatt says, "Look what you made me do." Strowman gets up as Wyatt has his back turned. Wyatt turns around and laughs at him. Wyatt tries to swing the stick, but Strowman knocks him into the water. Strowman kneels down at the water and apparently doesn't see Wyatt. As the water starts bubbling like it's boiling, Strowman nods and says it's over. He keeps looking around the surface of the water until Wyatt's arm comes up out of the water. You know how the Lady of the Lake did in the King Arthur movie with Excalibur, applying the mandible claw to Strowman into the water. There's a struggle. It looks like Wyatt comes back up out of the water for a second, struggling to breathe or get out. Wyatt is pulled back under and is all calm. The water then turns blood red and starts bubbling. The Fiend returns, coming out of the water and staring straight at the camera. As we hear Wyatt laughing. In the background, WWE's horror show Extreme Rules pay-per-view goes off there as the Fiend growls, "Let me in." And that concludes my results for Extreme Rules and my other crappy match. Though it's cinematic. Thanks for your peace out. See you on again. And if you don't know, brothers and sisters, just call me